And there we go. So welcome to the virtual workshop on home office ergonomics. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen here. And let's see, do that. And all right, everybody can see that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the basic three things that we're going to talk about are improving your posture, proper arrangement of your desk, your keyboard, your mouse and screen to reduce stress and pressure on your back, neck, shoulders. Looks like we got another newcomer there. Hello, Drew.
Okay.
Just to be aware that we are recording this, so if that's not okay with you, you can take yourself off there, I guess, just so we can share this later and with other people. And then the last piece, number 3, will be essential stretching. So the first piece here is probably something you guys have seen before. Obviously, the right is quite obviously wrong. But the key piece of this slide that I want to start with is chair posture. So when we get these kinds of slides, immediately everybody kind of sits up. It's a pretty common thing when PTs start talking about posture. All of a sudden, everybody does just sit up nice and tall. But it's super, super important when you're sitting at a chair all day long. And the key pieces here, can everybody see my mouse moving here? Okay, so obviously this is a nice office chair, may not be what we all have at home. If you're fortunate to have it at home, I'm gonna quickly talk about that, or when you get back into the office, is that your chair, the lumbar hits you in the right spot, okay? So that's slightly different for everybody. A lot of times the back of a chair actually has an adjustment to raise it up and down. Sometimes it's a little knob back here with a plastic sleeve that's over and it can extend. But you want to do it where your natural curve is. It's usually when you're sitting tall. If you slouch all the way like this gentleman, and then you sit up tall all the way, it's somewhere between the two. So you want to be comfortable, shoulders directly over your elbows, directly over your hips. Another thing to note is where the back is. So this little black piece here oftentimes has an adjustment underneath with another little knob that's not pictured here. And what that does is takes this whole back and pushes it forward or pushes it back. And what you want to do is you want to be able to get 2 to 3 fingers, and I'll show this in person in a little bit, but you want to be able to get 2 to 3 fingers between the back of your leg and the end of the seat pan right here. We call this the seat pan. So if you can put 2 to 3 fingers there, then, and you're sitting up against the back, that's a perfect chair for you. Otherwise, you need to bring this a little forward so that the back, the seat pan or the waterfall of the seat is not hitting the back of your knee where it could cut off circulation and nerves and cause tingling and things like that. If you don't happen to have a nice chair like this, use a pillow, and I'll demonstrate that later, that pushes you forward. So again, you have about 2 to 3 fingers behind here. And then a nice hip position here. So we call this 90 degrees at your hip, 90 degrees at your knee, and then your feet are flat on the floor. If anything, your hips could be a little bit higher, but you never want your hips lower than your knees. That's going to put too much stress on your back. Okay. We're going to get into some of the other positions that this person is, like where your eyes are and your monitor. We're going to get into that in a little bit. So here's another example of that. Again, there's at least 2 to 3 fingers space here behind the knee. This figure sitting up nice and tall, shoulders, elbows, hips, all in a line, head straight over the shoulders. Again, we're going to get into this in a little bit. Elbow 90 here, feet flat on the floor. Standing position, we want to try to maintain all of those same things except for the hip down. So if you do have the fortune of having a standing workstation with your monitor at a certain height, you want to make sure that your hands and your keyboard are at this 90-90 position. When using a mouse, here's a couple different examples. So this represents a desk. So if your mouse is you're right next to the edge of the desk, then there's a risk of a little bit of excessive unintended movement throughout your shoulder, elbow, maybe your neck and back. So the closer you can get yourself to the edge, the better you can be. Now, ideally, I would say it's somewhere between these two. And what you want to be careful of and pay extra attention to is what the edge of your desk looks like. So if it's a sharp desk, you got to be really careful of putting too much pressure on the carpal tunnel. If you have the fortune of having what's called a waterfall desk or a soft edge, then you can put a little more pressure on the edge and get away with it. There's different ways you can pad that with a towel, and I'll show you guys in a bit. Okay, so then the next thing we want to talk about is how to set up your desk.
Sorry, Chris, was the recommendation to have more of your hand over the desk or less of your arm over the desk?
So if the more you can have over the desk, as long as you're not moving your elbow too far forward. So if you know the desk is here, can you see? See me here?
Yes.
So if the desk is here and your elbow is right underneath you, that's great. What you just don't want to do is reach too far forward to accomplish that. And you'll see that in a minute when I show you the top view of a mouse. Okay, so what we're trying to reduce is the amount of excessive of upper body motion. So the more support you can have when you're resting, the better. Does that help, Drew?
Yes.
Okay. So a couple of different desk formations, kind of the L formation, and then just you can picture just one of these without the L, or the corner desk scenario. So if we take this picture over here, just a regular desk, actually this is a better one to show the regular desk. So if your computer, and you know, omit all of this, pretend you're just facing this straight away, you want to set most of the things up in like an arc, okay? And the arc is set up in such a way that you can reach everything without bringing your elbow forward, that you use 66% of your day or more. So if you're on your keys, you're on your mouse, you want that to be within an arc that you can reach without moving your elbow away from your side. Then the next arc that goes a little bit further is what you would do, say, 33 to 66% of the day, where you can actually bring your elbow away from your side and reach for it a little bit without bringing your back off the chair. Then the last, so what you do 33% or less of your day would be way out, and that's like the reference zone. So if it's a book that you use every once in a while, if anybody uses a Rolodex anymore, I don't know, but that would be over here, a shelf up high that you might get. So you just don't want to put something way out of reach that you're going to be using on a regular basis. Again, 66% or more. If you are going to be using an L-shaped desk, you want to set it up so that you can move, do that same arc scenario here, and then turn and do the arc scenario over here. You want to try to reduce a lot of twisting where one part of your body is facing here while you're looking over here, especially with any regularity. Okay. All right. So now looking at how your computer should be set up in your screen. So regardless of a laptop or a desk, we're going to get more into that. Regardless of a laptop or a desktop, you want to make sure that, and this picture is slightly off, but you want to make sure that when you're sitting up tall in all the chair position we just talked about, you want your eyes level with the top cursor of your computer screen, not the top of your screen. So let's just use Word, for instance. When you turn Word on, wherever the cursor blinks, that's the level that you want your eyes to be at, not the toolbar at the top. Then your eyes, optometrists tell us that your eyes can focus down about 30 degrees without moving your head. And that's what we're trying to reduce. We're trying to reduce the amount of head bobbing that we don't realize we're doing a lot if our monitor is too low. Okay. So again, this is a little better picture so that we're putting our view pretty much where we're starting our work. So probably up at this part of the screen is going to be more of our toolbars and things that we don't use as much. but from here down is where we're going to be looking most, and this is that viewing angle that optometrists tell us we can do with our eyes only without using our head. Okay. A couple other things to note. Again, this is an okay position. You really want to be careful. Keyboards were all designed with this clip in the back, and you want to make sure your wrist is in more of a neutral position, and there's a slide later that I'll show you with that. So it may not always be appropriate to raise that keyboard up with that kickstand. Again, not quite sure why they thought that was appropriate at some point, but if you can't get your keyboard any lower so that you can be in that neutral position and your wrist, then I would say kick it up. But if you can get this so it's down and you're nice and level, I wouldn't even bother using the kickstand on your keyboard. I would just keep it nice and level. The distance usually from your monitor screen to your eyes is oftentimes about the level of your arm. So if you reach out and you touch with your fingertips your screen, you're probably in a good position. Now, screens have come a long way. They're bigger. You have 19-inch screens. You have, I don't even know what they sell nowadays. 19 was big for me for a long time. But they have bigger screens. They have curved screens. The font size of is really helpful as well. So certainly what you're trying to reduce is the forward head position for your eyes to focus. So if 15-20 minutes into your typing you feel like your head is forward, you might need to bring your monitor a little forward, or talk to your optometrist about getting some glasses that help with those distances. But the simplest thing is just bring your computer screen a little bit closer. So here's some great tips for using a mouse. So the key is that you have a neutral wrist position, not an angled one. So if you find yourself hovering your hand over the mouse all day long and you want to rest, then that's when it's appropriate to have a wrist rest, because a wrist rest would lie under here and keep you neutral when you're not doing something. So a wrist rest is not usually meant to rest your wrist on while you're using it. It's meant when you're relaxed. So you'd pick your hand up, use the mouse, and then rest it so that it doesn't come all the way down into this angled, ugly position. And this isn't really a good resting position either. Try to keep it as neutral as you can. Try not to mouse off on an angle this way or off on an angle that way. The same thing goes with a keyboard. For a while, split keyboards were kind of the hot thing. They say that it didn't take too long to get training on that. But as long as you're doing a good job keeping your fingers on the home keys and keeping your wrists in a neutral position, that's the best. You just want to be careful of keeping your hands in this angled position, because again, you'll put pressure on nerves and blood supply. The same thing goes here. Just being careful of how you're positioning yourself. Same as with the mouse. You don't want to rest your wrist on a wrist rest while you're typing. It's only when you're resting. And then really jamming fingers down. I know there's a lot of loud typers out there that just do henpecking like this. You want to be careful keeping things as neutral as you can. And then I just want to talk a little bit about nowadays more and more people are using laptops, and you may not have access right now. I understand that places like Best Buy are out of these during this time. I think these home remedies really went fast. But ideally, if you could either get a monitor that you could plug into your laptop and put it up and use your keyboard from your laptop, or like this is pictured here, propping your laptop up with some type of a docking station so that you're maintaining that eye level with the top of the monitor and you have an external keyboard or an external mouse. That would certainly be better than spending hours using this pad, typing here and trying to look down, because one thing is going to be out of alignment. Either your hands are going to be out of alignment or your head and neck is going to be out of alignment. So using a laptop for here and there, 10, 15 minutes, a couple of times a day is okay. But if you're on it 6 to 8 hours, I'd really suggest strongly using something like this with this type of an attachment, or using the keyboard and an external mouse with an external monitor that's sits above this screen. And the last thing, and then we'll go a little bit into the just kind of home remedy things, and certainly have some time for some questions, is just some stretches. So these are about 12 of the best stretches you could do. And in a perfect world, I'd really like to see people do this once an hour. So, you know, you could easily set an alarm on your computer that says stop and take a rest and do these stretches. So what I'll do is, this is, since we've been on here for 20 minutes, it's not quite an hour, but I'd like to go through these stretches and have everybody try these. So I'm going to take my headphones off, unplug, and everybody still hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, turn my volume up here. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Well, can you guys see me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, so I guess we'll look at the pictures and stretch. So the first one is that you're going to clasp your fingers like this and push away. Okay, nice stretch there, 10 to 20 seconds. You want to do that at least 2 times. Okay, pushing straight out. Then what you're going to do is keeping your fingers with your knuckles pointing to the ceiling, 10 to 15 seconds straight up in the air. Okay, so yeah, these are ideal. The first few are ideal to be doing standing, if you can. Then what you're going to do is you're going to grab your elbow and you're going to reach to the side, and you're trying to stretch all up and down the lats and the triceps. And then you want to do the same thing to the other side. Then the next one is you clasp your hands together, and now your palms are going to go to the ceiling. Okay, straight up. Okay. Then you're going to shrug your shoulders up, and then relax them down, and shrug them up. Hold for about 3 to 5 seconds, and really think about relaxing them down, because that's one of the things, especially when we have deadlines at work and we're really focused on what we're doing, our shoulders start to come up to our ears. So we want to make sure we're relaxing down. Then, and I'm going to turn on this one, you're going to reach behind your back, grab your hand, and you're going to tilt your head away from the hand you're grabbing. Okay, try to keep your head as neutral as you can. And then grab the other hand and go to the other side. Okay. Really, really excellent stretches to help reduce tension, headaches, and things. Then you're going to put your palms together and push down towards the ground. You feel that in your wrists and your forearms. Then you're going to put the backs of your hands together, still fingers down, and you're going to gently come up to the ceiling. Now, if you feel any tingling in your fingers, you want to stop at this one. If you feel tingling in your fingers, you might want to see somebody. That could be carpal tunnel. Then, like a toy soldier, one arm at a time, reach up and then down, and then actually we can sit back down on these last couple. You're going to reach up, and then with the other arm, you're actually kind of reaching down to the floor with the opposite arm. So the opposite arm is reaching down, and then the other arm up, and then reaching down. Okay. I'm going to skip over 10. I'll come back to actually, now I'm going to move my computer now so that you can see a little bit easier here. So with this one, what you're going to do is, like everybody, you don't know what I was wearing. I got jeans on. You're going to grab your knee, cross over, and you're going to pull it up, and you're going to twist away. So let's see if I can get that whole thing. I might need to move back a little bit further here. So you're going to cross over, and you're going to twist away. You should feel that in the side of your hip and your buttocks. Everybody feeling that there?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. And then the same thing to the other side, cross over and twist the other way. Okay. Then this one is an excellent one of my favorites of the whole bunch. You're going to clasp your hands behind your back. You're going to bring your chest straight up in the air and look up a little bit, and then bring your hands away from your back. You're going to feel that stretch in the front of your chest, your shoulders. Just a really nice opening after being on the computer and slouched all day long. And then the last thing is just shake your hands out. Shake those hands out. Okay? So if you can do that about once a day, you'd really, ward away a lot of the aches and pains that people can have with sitting. So let me just show you a couple of home remedies, and then I'll open it up for some questions. So let's see. So a couple of simple remedies. So if you might not have noticed, on my chair, I just have a basic kind of kitchen chair, okay? No real lumbar support, okay? So what I can do is take a regular pillow from the couch and put that right up there. And then what I will do is I would bring that up to where it hits my back, and I can keep it in a good position, okay? So it doesn't have to be any fancy rolls right now. It's very difficult to get out to the store these days. I get it. So a nice pillow, that making sure that it may not be right where your buttocks is, but just a little bit up. You can also roll it if it's a small one, or you don't feel like you have enough support, so that it gets right in your low back there. Just make sure that it's not pushing you forward like this. Okay. Another little trick that you can do is you can take just a regular towel. This happens to be a hand towel, and you can fold it in such a way you can make a roll. And then I have some girls in my house, so I can just take one of their hair ties, put it right around. And now I have a lumbar, if I have a chair that's got enough of a back that this won't go through the back. Or I can add to a small pillow and put that towel roll, so I have a nice lumbar in the back there. Everybody see that okay? And then the last little trick I'll show you guys, the last two little tricks, couple more hair ties here, is making a wrist rest. So for a mouse, you can just take a washcloth and just roll that up, and take a hair tie or a rubber band, and I have my mouse, and when I'm not mousing, I just relax my hand on it. Then I kind of take my hand off. Now this might be a little big for me, so I probably would make that a little bit smaller, but then I can relax it in between. You just don't want to spend all day long resting it on there, because that's the carpal tunnel, and if you start to have tingling and numbness in your fingers, you got too much stress and pressure on that. And then you can do the same thing with a regular towel for a wrist rest for a keyboard. So you're typing, your hands are off, then you're resting. Typing and then resting. Okay? A clean kitchen sponge also can work well as a nice wrist rest in a pinch as well. Okay? So that's pretty much the end of my presentation. I'm happy to open it up to conversations, questions, answers. Like I said, we have another 8 minutes that I'm happy to answer questions, probably 10 at most. So I'll open up the floor.
I guess I'll go if no one else wants to go.
Sure. Go ahead, Michael.
How far away would you have the monitors? I have these attachments, and it's probably, I would say, 2 feet away from my face. How far should that be?
So that's a great question. What's the size of your monitors?
Even better question. I think 24 on each one.
Okay. So what I would do is I would position yourself in your chair first, so that everything, like we talked about, your hips are over your shoulders are over your hips, your knees are at a 90-90 flat on the floor. If not, if you noticed on one of my slides, there was something to put under your feet, so you could certainly get like a block of any kind of a simple thing to put under your feet. And then if you feel like your head has to come forward to view it, if your head's constantly forward, then you want to bring your monitor closer.
Okay.
Most of the time it's a hand reach away. But if you know, check yourself. I often tell my patients to check themselves. So throughout the day, you want to check yourself. And if you feel like your head is forward to focus on something, then you really need to bring your monitor closer to you.
Okay.
The more you can keep your straight up and down position without bringing your head forward, the less stress you're going to put on your neck. You're going to reduce the risk of headaches. You're going to reduce shoulder stress by doing that.
Perfect.
Can I ask a question about standing, Chris?
Absolutely.
When you're at a standing desk, do you recommend having like a mat on the floor, or like what do you recommend for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So ideally, sitting or standing shouldn't be done all day. If in a perfect world, I would suggest standing 60% of the day and sitting 40% of the day. It could be 70-30, but 60-40 would be good. You could have like an anti-fatigue mat underneath there, absolutely. What you actually might find works better is a little stool that you can put your foot on, and that you alternate back and forth which foot goes on it, because that'll take stress off of it. You just have to remember it's there so you don't trip over it. That's the only thing. But having a stool can actually take more stress off of your back than it's, say, like an anti-fatigue mat. So like at a grocery store, cashiers can't really have a stool there because they would trip over it all day long. Mm-hmm. The other little trick that you could do, similar to when you're washing dishes, you can't bring the sink up where it would be an ideal height. So if you open up the cabinet door, you can put a foot in there, and it's got the same kind of concept of having one foot in there to take stress off your back. But that's an excellent question.
Okay, thank you.
Great, no problem.
So Chris, I'm making adjustments here based on the things you've been saying, trying to move the monitor a little closer. My two questions. One, my chair reclines, and I feel like that's just taking my head farther away and making me lean forward. Do you recommend keeping it in the locked position so that it doesn't do the back and forth, or maybe some on, some off?
Absolutely. I would say some on, some off. Our body was designed to move. So certainly, sitting is not a great position. But just like we were talking about sitting and standing, I would say part of the day lock it and part of the day have it unlocked. You can actually have a good position, rock back, but you do have to be cautious. Like you said, you may have to bring your monitor even closer and bring your keyboard and mouse a little closer, because then your shoulder is going to be really far forward. Or as long as you have enough room under your desk, just bring your whole chair closer to the table and the desk while you're tipping back a little bit. But I would, just like when you do your stretches, say, okay, now it's time for me to lock my chair again. and then the next hour do some stretches. Oh, I'm going to unlock my chair, and kind of play around back and forth, and you might find that adjustment can make a difference for you.
Yeah, so that actually is a good segue to the other question I wanted to ask. I don't know how far I can get down here.
Oh, you got arms.
I've got one of these keyboard trays that slides in and
Sure.
out from under the desk,
Yep.
and the arm on the chair here is maybe an inch and a half, something like that, higher than the deal, and then my mouse is kind of up here on the. I had it up on the top of the desk, but now it's down in here. Does it make more sense to use the chair as a rest to keep the arm in a neutral position, or to put because that's the thing, is like I have to reach way out there to get the mouse.
Yeah.
The arms here keep the chair, quite a ways away from the desk.
Absolutely. Yeah. That is that's a big challenge. So so it's a great point. I
didn't buy this chair with the intention of working from home 5 days a week.
No, that's a great point. I would definitely move everything as close to you as you can. Get that keyboard and mouse right to the edge of that tray. I don't know if there's enough room for both the keyboard and the mouse on the tray. I would certainly bring it as close as you absolutely could. And you can use armrests. I'm a fan of armrests because they do reduce stress on your shoulders. But you have to be careful that it's not too much pressure on the part of your elbow right here called the cubital tunnel, because that will cause tingling as much as pressure on the carpal tunnel. So if there's a sharp edge to an armrest that's going to rest right here, that can cause tingling down the arm, and you want to be careful. So sometimes just a washcloth wrapped around or a towel wrapped around the wood.
Oh yeah, I can duct tape towels to these wooden things and turn them into nice soft armrests.
You got it. You got it. Well, duct tape might get a little sweaty. Maybe choose something else. But that's exactly the idea. Is just soften those a little bit. And again, you can use armrests on chairs. Just be cautious that, one, it's not hiking your shoulders up too high, and two, you're using them to relax your shoulders. I have patients that are in slings that don't use the sling, even though they have it and it could support their arm. They're still holding their shoulder up. So just like a sling, an armrest should be to allow you to relax, so you're not getting the upper trap stress from sitting too much like that. But these are awesome, really, really good questions. Yes, Rebecca.
I just had a question about the stretches. Well, two questions. Do you have a length of time you would recommend holding those stretches for?
So yes, I would say on average, I would try to hold 20 seconds for each of the stretches.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought you might say 10 or 8. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, some of them do say 8 to 10. I like when you're doing a static stretch, I'd really like to say you're going to get more out of it for 20 seconds.
Go
ahead.
Sorry. And you said once a day. I thought you said once an hour, and then I thought you said once a day. So I wasn't sure.
Yeah, maybe I did, but once an hour would be very perfect.
Okay. Because I do, and I think a lot of people that are now working from home, that could really benefit from this spread into the yoga class. It's kind of a cool thing. Thank you. I'll mention you.
Yeah, great. We have 2 minutes left. Any other final questions?
Any tips to not lose my mind?
I'd say double down on your all your self-help stuff. Gratitude and journaling and meditation and exercise and connecting with your family, and just maybe scream really loud here and there to get the frustrations out.
Thanks, Chris.
Sure. No, it's been great. I appreciate you guys' attention. It's been a fun group. You guys are all very interactive, and I'm pretty sure the audio is easily emailed, so I will send you guys all the audio if that would help.
Yes.
And then as soon as I can get the video uploaded to YouTube, I will do that and probably put it on my website so you can view that later as well.
Thank you.
Is the slide that had the stretches something that you sent us or will send us?
I could definitely send it to you. That's a great idea. I'll definitely will.
I'd like to share this with my colleagues. I've got quite a few of them that are in the same boat.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and reach out if you have questions. Shoot me an email. I'll be happy to answer questions. We all got to get through this together. It's nothing that any of us chose to do, and just want to see if I can help some people out, reduce some stress and shoulder and neck and pain. But if you guys do this and you work hard at it and actually spend some time trying to set up your stations like we talked about, it makes a big difference. You really will feel better at the end of the day. And the last note, it's a whole other presentation, but if you guys go on my website, nhsportandspine.com, on the very first landing page, there's a whole foam roll stretching program that if you did at the end of the day, you'd feel phenomenal. And it just takes you right through how to stretch laying on the foam roll. So yeah, that's my final note for you. So you guys have a great evening. I hope everybody stays healthy and well. And thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thank you.